We're back.
Man.
Yet again.
We always say that.
I say it on every podcast I do.
No matter what. If you're
the host.
If you did a podcast every day, would you say, we're back? Would you
Probably
still
not.
do it? Yeah.
Probably not every day.
But it feels infrequent enough to where it works?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know if it works, but we say it. This is Pedal Pushers Podcast. I'm Zach.
Matthew, howdy.
And we got stuff to talk about today. We're going to talk about some gear.
We are going to talk about gear. We'll talk about what's going down at Mythos.
Yeah. Should we start with that?
What's going down at Mythos?
What's going down at Mythos Town?
It is Pedal Pushers.
It is.
And we're going to talk about Epiphones again. But we got to give the
Take
people
that, internet.
We got to give people what they want. They want us talking about gear in general, but we do need to sell some pedals. So what's the new hotness over at Mythos right now?
Well, I mean, it's the Herculean Deluxe still killing it.
Gearing up for round 3.
Round 3, big numbers.
That one's almost sold out completely from our
yeah.
dealers. Again, we cannot catch a break on this thing.
Not really.
Which is good and bad.
Yeah.
It's good because the people love it, but bad because it's
a lot of work.
We'd like to have them on the shelf sooner rather than later so people could just order them. But, we're small and we're trying to catch up.
We got a shipment of vintage. I don't know how vintage, but new old stock germanium diodes. Ooh. So I teased a little picture of that. Got some more D90s, which we use in the Wildwood, and they were made. My Russian is rusty, so far as what month they were made, but they're from 1990.
Say that 3 times fast.
My Russian is rusty. My Russian is rusty. My Russian is rusty.
There you go. I like it. Yeah.
But that's cool because now we got some cool stuff to experiment with, and maybe.
I think we should do something special with it.
Maybe we should.
I think we should do something real special.
What do you guys think?
So that's exciting.
That is exciting. But we have currently sitting in the my circuit board ordering cart
Apparatus.
the web page where we order our prototypes. Mm-hmm. We got some new prototypes
for
3 stuff.
3 or 4 pedals, I think.
3 at the moment.
Okay.
So.
And would you like to tell the people what those 3 things are?
No.
Oh, I didn't want you to. I just wanted to see what you would say.
No.
You got to keep some things close to the vest,
It's still. Wait. What is this?
What?
We're in April.
Can you believe it's April?
So that's,
April.
That's 4.
April
right?
16th. Did you pay your taxes?
Yes.
Yeah.
I paid. Yeah. Of course.
Actually, I see it come out of the thing because I do look at the books.
You're running the number.
We do pay on time.
But yeah, there's still a lot of year left. It doesn't feel like it.
You feel like this year's over already?
Sometimes it feels like that.
I feel like it was just getting started. Like the other day, I was like, when you kind of think about your resolutions or the things you want to accomplish in the year,
right?
You're like, well, it's still early, and now it's April 15th. It's like, well, I'm never going to get that done. It's over.
Year's over.
I had a good try. So I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
Like there's a lot of year left. So all the projects and things that we're hoping to accomplish.
Yes.
And this is all tentative. These are not nothing that is on order is done.
Things could go sideways very quickly,
as it so often does. But we're just gonna have some fun stuff for you guys.
Yeah, like I look at I've got a kind of a roadmap for the year, and we've got everything prototyped that we hope to do for the rest of the year. I think that needs a new circuit board.
Yeah,
there's some other stuff that we're trying.
3 that might have to have another board.
That project. That project. Oh, okay.
So
yes.
Otherwise, you're doing great as always.
I'm doing wonderful right now.
You got your.
I got my chain right here.
We are in the same room.
Yes, the girls. My mother-in-law's from New Orleans, so it's always a Mardi Gras party at our house all the time, and we've got beads everywhere, and the girls love to play with them. And now June is convinced that I wear one of these every day. Yeah. So last couple days, she's like, "Well, where are your beads, Daddy? You got to put on your beads." And yesterday, I legit forgot I had them on, and I wore them to work. And then now I've decided I'm a chain guy, and this is
chain guy. You're a plastic bead chain guy.
I'm trying to. I've got watches, I've got a beard, I've got a hat, I've got glasses. I think I'm just going to be Captain Accessory.
Hey,
what else do I need?
You need stuff in your pockets.
What do you mean?
There's more stuff in your pockets besides guitar picks.
I got my guitar picks.
Your EDC, your everyday carry. You get your AirPods.
Oh yeah.
You get
I did work at a bag company 10 years ago, so I'm familiar with the EDC action. That was a big deal back in the day.
I'm here for it.
There you go. But no, I'm good. The girls are doing great. Getting my board. Oh, we could talk about our boards. Well, that might be a whole nother episode where we got to talk about it again. But like, we're getting close on both our boards. We've got cables ordered. I've got everything Velcro down. Shout out to Pops, who's pretty much doing all the work, which is exciting for me because I don't have as much time. By the time I have time to work on things at night, I'm asleep.
Right. Yeah.
That's kind of how it works. But we're getting really close. I showed some things off on my Instagram about how the board's coming along. So,
a lot of mythos.
Yes, I have more mythos on my board than you do.
Yeah, my board is like I feel like all the show boards are my board.
That is correct. Yes.
So my personal pedal board that will get done hopefully soon.
Yes.
Is just like an excuse to take all the stuff that I have gathering dust on a shelf and Velcro
the breadth
down.
of your collection.
Yeah.
Yes, I hear you. Yes, but you can go back. We had a whole episode about that. That was the $7,000 pedal board. So you could listen to the start of that. But we're finally, because we had to wait for a lot of stuff to come in.
Yeah.
We're finally going to get that done, which is very exciting. And then, tons of gigs coming up after that, right?
Well,
we'll be all set.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I like to do something.
I know.
People are asking for jams from you and I.
I know.
So yeah, we'll just get a drum machine, and start jamming.
I think Orion's the one.
Yeah,
that's definitely what we should be doing.
Yeah.
That would go. All right. Well, that was a little update, which is good. I like that. Get the mythos content out front.
Right.
And now, what's the topic of the week?
Topic of the week,
or top of the whatever?
The show?
Tri-weekly, bi-weekly. How often do we do the show?
Semi-annually.
Whenever we decide to.
Is the death of mid-priced gear.
But what does that mean, Zach?
That means
what do you mean?
That means the cheap stuff.
The cheap stuff
is getting better. And not being as cheap as it once was.
It is not.
But that's okay. And then,
well, it's a controversial topic.
It is.
It's very controversial. We'll address that as part of this.
And the good stuff is getting even better and getting altogether more expensive.
But
all the stuff in the middle is kind of like this weird limbo sort of place.
And it's a topic. If you watch the live streams with us, have come up a lot. Because we are talking about new gear constantly, and every time something comes up, it falls into one of those categories, and we discuss. And then Epiphone released a slew of new guitars with the Gibson headstock, and had a certain price point. And then PRS upgraded their S2s.
Yeah, they did.
And I said, that sounds like a good show. Right?
It does.
Just talking about that, what that means for the industry, what that means for those companies, and where all this is going. So the first question I have to ask you, Zach, is, does it feel like that PRS and Gibson / Epiphone are at war with their pricing and the way they're going at it? That's how it feels to me. I feel like...
You think so?
I think so, yeah.
Because I feel like...
I think they're coming at each other.
Maybe with SE, because I do feel like PRS's SE stuff is like... They have definitely set the bar for what is...
Now, what tier would that fall under for you?
That is... I mean, I think that SEs are very much in the lower level, like beginner, entry-level instruments, and like... And, I mean, it's kind of hard to say, because they're not like... they're not super affordable.
Well, what's affordable to... like? Can we
sub $500? Is that affordable?
Why is there Squiers that are sub 500 that are any good?
Well, a lot of people would argue that Classic Vibes are
what are
good.
Those, like $400?
They're like $375.
It's that, and I think that's is sort of like we're all trying to have these conversations, and we might not all be on the same sort of baseline agreement of what affordable means and what good means, which is hard. But what I'm talking about here is that, like, when I think that PRS and Gibson are kind of coming at each other a little bit, was just the timing of it, which is that Gibson's coming out with Epiphone guitars with the Gibson headstock with a lot of upgraded hardware, right? And then right afterwards, literally like a week later, the S2s all got fully USA hardware and pickups. And I thought that was a very interesting move.
And they're already a USA made guitar.
They're already a USA made guitar. So it feels like what... and this is just me just spitballing here because I think about this stuff all day, every day. Yeah, we talked about that guitar.
Yeah.
That $500 SE set. But what I'm talking about is that, like, it feels like Gibson made a play for that $1,200 to $1,500 guitar right? That's the best one that you could buy. And then even though the S2 stuff are a little bit better, but you're paying a little bit more and you're getting a whole lot of guitar made in the USA. So
the S2s now are considerably more.
Oh.
Right?
Are they like $2,000 now?
Yeah, they're in the 2K range.
I think some of them are like $2,300.
Yeah, so they're not, I mean, like, that is...
So that, would you consider those mid-priced?
Yeah.
Man, we just blew past any cohesion whatsoever on this conversation.
No,
I think I just jumped all over the place. I apologize, everybody. I just wanted to get into it a little bit about what spurred this on. But, like, I consider all those, like, right before, like, USA standard kind of stuff.
Right. But I think kind of like, PRS is, they sit in an interesting place. Because I think the argument that most people are having about these prices are more in the Fender and really
Gibson.
The Epiphone and Gibson realm. Because PRS, like the SE line, there's a strong delineation between them as far as the spec,
absolutely,
and the price.
You're right. Yeah.
The S2s are starting to blur that line. Aesthetically, there's a lot of differences now.
Yes.
They're like from a build standpoint, from a electronic standpoint, it's not so different. I honestly think that. So here's a thought. Let me see that you.
Yeah.
Making sure I'm not jumping the shark.
No,
here.
you're fine.
I feel like S2s going with American pickups.
Yes.
And raising the prices is going to hurt that line. Personally, because I feel like the SEs are so good and they're so affordable. The what was this one? The satin standard.
It's crazy. $500.
$500. When that's the CE, PRS SECE.
Rolls off the tongue.
$500. Above that, you're getting those with the gloss finish for $700.
So you think that the market that they're going for there, like that the prices got pushed a little bit too high?
I think so.
The S2s.
I think so, because I think where S2's value, and we talked about this a lot, where the value of the S2 line is not in giving you a lesser version of a guitar that exists in the core line.
Yeah.
It's giving you something different. And that's why I think the Vela and the Starla, the Mira, those things should kind of live in that realm. And then like the SE, that stuff is so good that's your entry into the core 594, the McCarty, the DGT.
Well, I think that the core, of this argument, not the PRS core, sorry, that was confusing, is the idea of like all these businesses trying to hit certain price points to reach solid Monster. I got
I'm drinking this Monster green tea is really good.
Are you feeling good? You feeling
really
strong?
Good.
I need to have a drink now.
Feeling strong.
But what I think it is that like, can you hit as many price points to reach as many customers as possible? So for Gibson, they've got Epiphone, and there's lower priced Epiphone guitars, $500 range, $1,000 range.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And then now what they're doing is they're pushing into that $1,200, $1,500, $1,800 range, which is making a lot of people uncomfortable.
It is.
And so is Fender, right? Because they're pushing their, a Mexican-made Ventera series can get up there. They're $1,200. They have a lot of Mexican-made artist guitars that can get up. The McCready, the Isbell, those are all $1,500 to $1,800. And I think we're all coming to grips with that. But I think the reason why this is happening is because the price of the main stuff is getting high enough to where now there's room.
Yeah.
Now there's room. And I think the quality of that stuff from Fender and Gibson, I think, is good enough to where I think they can not get away with it.
Right.
But like you can justify it because you are getting a nice guitar. But everything is just, I mean, it's inflation. It's the price of parts, the price of labor, the price of everything everywhere is going up. And so, it's an interesting spot to be in.
And I think that's the place where a lot of people who are moaning about the differences in between these seemingly, or what should have been, or what historically have been more affordable models are now encroaching on what people would consider not affordable.
Yeah.
But, just from our industry for building pedals, everything has gone up. And like when I say everything, I mean everything. The lock washers that we put on the jacks doubled in cost from our normal parts supplier. Lock washers doubled in cost. And then that's like, that's just a small example. So imagine that snowballing for a guitar when there's so much more to consider. I mean, the cost of shipping, and this happened during COVID, and you saw it with Revolta, the cost of getting a container shipment went from one price to what, like 4 or 5 times that price?
Gnarly. Yeah.
So like just the shipping charge just went up exponentially.
Yeah.
So we can dive into that.
Yes.
but
I think a lot of what we're getting at too with these import guitars or the lower priced USA stuff is a lot of them are getting pushed to spec levels that they never were before.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I think that is probably the most interesting part of the strategy is that it's clear that, and that's why we titled the episode "The Death of Mid-Price Gear," because it feels almost intentional.
Yeah,
that the companies are looking at that $1,800 to $3,000 range of USA made guitars and saying this might not be worth doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to make that stuff, so we can give our customers what they want spec wise on a $1,200 Epiphone or a $1,200 Vintera.
Yeah.
And maybe that's where that play is, because you're not skimping on spec anymore when you're buying a guitar that's lower priced. You're getting the good stuff, USA made hardware, pickups, that kind of thing. It's just made overseas.
Right. And like for a lot of people, that is the biggest problem with all of it, is that it's
still made overseas.
It's still made overseas, and they expect that to be cheap. I mean, it's funny, like thinking back, like Fender and Squier, Squier sort of like blurred that line a long time ago when the Classic Vibe came out, because before that, all Squiers had big headstocks. The fonts were all like, you know, the spaghetti logo was like the 70s thing. It was big.
Yeah.
And then the Classic Vibe came out, and you got the classic like spaghetti logos on everything, the right small headstocks on the non like Affinity cheap guitars. But Epiphone, like in high school, for me, you know, in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was like everyone was just like, all my buddies, when we talk about it, it was like, man, I wish Epiphone had Gibson headstocks. I mean,
it's funny.
Later we found out all the Japanese ones did and stuff, but like we dreamed of being able to buy like a guitar that looked like our hero's guitar that we could afford. And
and here we are.
And here we are, and now we can.
Yeah, so if you break it down a little bit further by the brands itself, we'll focus on Epiphone because that's our favorite thing to talk about, is Epiphone guitars. Is that like when you're looking at, say, you know, the new, you know, Epiphone 59,
right?
And then you're looking at like a $27.99 Les Paul Standard, it starts to get really interesting on which one that you should probably buy.
Yeah.
And I think this is the same thing. We did have this discussion, what the F's going on in Fender. Another episode you can go back and listen to, where we talked a lot about the differences between the Vintera and the American Vintage 2.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out what the company was trying to do to differentiate, and besides, you know, like besides the price, and looking at it and saying like, how do I decide which one I'm going to buy? What's the best value for the customer? Am I reaching 2 different customers, or am I making the same customer decide between 2 guitars?
Yeah.
That's where it all gets really interesting to me, and try to figure out where that market's going to go, because the price of the Epiphone and the Fender stuff is just going to keep going up.
Yeah,
from import.
100%.
So where does that go? Where does that go?
I don't know. I don't know. Like where. Well, I feel like it's going. I feel like you said, I feel like the American stuff is going to keep growing in price, and the quality like is like I'm not knocking any Gibson standard stuff or Fender standard stuff. But I think what's happening is, as these companies are investing in all these lower price instruments, these lower price instruments are getting really better, and it's making it so much harder to decide to spend the extra money on the real deal thing.
Yes.
And I think that, to me, is where I feel like these companies are in trouble a bit. At least from my perspective.
So you don't think this is intentional? Do you know? I mean, what I mean by intentional, meaning that like they have to know that now there's people that would have said, well, I don't really want the Epiphone because I want the Les Paul headstock, and it doesn't have this, it doesn't have that. So I'm going to save up and maybe get a Les Paul Standard for $27.99 at some point.
Yeah.
But now I can just go ahead and get, the Epiphone. I don't know what the official title of the guitar is. What's the name of it?
It's just, the Inspired by Custom 59 Standard.
Yeah,
maybe?
like I can get that guitar and I kind of get enough of what's going on that I'm good.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Well, and to their credit, the newest guitars they're making are really good.
Yes.
So it's...
Well, you can't do this. I'm sorry, but you cannot price these guitars at these levels if they're not good.
Right.
And if you do, and I've seen blowback from Fender, especially, and we've all known the quality issues that Gibson's had over the years.
Sure.
In the past, like you can't really get away with that on the internet anymore because people are going to post about it. People are going to talk about it. You could get away with it for a little bit, but if you're making something that sucks, people are going to,
Yeah, I feel
they're going to tell each other.
American Vintage stuff had a litany of problems out of the gate, and they're making a bunch of stuff. They're making a bunch of guitars, so inevitably, there's not everyone's going to get the best one possible.
Yeah.
But these are just the natural progressions of companies growing to this scale.
Yeah.
But
yes. So I think that the difference that we're talking about here with when we were talking about PRS, like you said, was the difference between the SE Custom 24 and the Custom 24 S2 and then the core Custom 24 is very different guitars. As far as the way they look, you're not going to mistake them for each other. But now you feel like the S2s are uncomfortably close to the Customs in a way that's not good for the company.
Well, I feel like the S2s, the core price PRS guitars, or the price of core PRS models are pretty high.
They're all, I think the cheapest one is probably the DGT.
There's a Silver Sky.
Well, that's bolt-on, so
right.
I'm talking about the kind of classic.
Set neck.
Yeah, because I think the CE24 is probably under $3,000. That's probably like $28.99.
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, we're talking about the set neck, maple cap guitars.
But those guitars are, they're like really expensive, and they're more expensive. They're and I don't mean that that it's a bad thing. It's just they're very deserving of the quality and the workmanship that goes into them, and they're charging for it because they're that well made.
Yeah.
A CE24 with a flame top is $2,700.
Okay, so those are still with a bolt-on guitar.
Yeah,
that's still. But then it's all like when we're talking about like the higher end stuff for every company, like what American-made guitar manufacturer like makes that just has like a sort of a standard core reputation, makes any guitars that are under $3,000. Like they got the Fender stuff and you got the Gibson stuff. Right? There's Music Man, which I have on my list.
Yeah.
Music Man makes stuff that's under 3,000, but like, Novo, nothing under 3,000. Sir, nothing under 3,000. No. Tom Anderson, nothing under 3,000. I'm sure Cower, your Creston Lees, your other small builders that none of those guys make anything under $3,000. Right?
I guess not.
Who is that company out there that's doing that? Like some of the direct to consumer stuff like Built or Dunnable, they still do stuff that's under $3,000? Maybe, but it's a lot of it's direct, so they can price it a little bit cheaper.
And those guitars aren't as they're not used. They very well could use like really high end flame tops and more expensive.
I think there's a
woods
custom Dunnables that get nuts.
Oh yeah,
so
sure.
They do that, but they know they do import stuff too.
They do?
Yeah, they do. They import Dunnables. Yeah.
Dunnable, I got a comment on my CME video that I passed them by. Yeah. It is not my thing. That I really hate the RD, the Gibson RD guitar.
So doing a whole,
So having like a line that's that's the whole bit. Yeah. I just despise that guitar. And those guitars, I've played them. Yeah. They do not appeal to me.
There you go.
So sorry, internet.
I don't think anybody's gonna be surprised that you don't love Dunnable. Yeah. I'm just talking about American-made sort of established. I just made up a word. That was good. Established. It's fabulous. Established. But who makes guitars that are under that much? You know what I mean? Because I
small builders, like really small.
Yeah, but it's hard to do that because it's really expensive, and I lived it, and I can speak towards it because I was general manager of one of these companies, and thinking about pricing. We did the Solus F1 and one for $25.99 for a long time, and we struggled, man, to make it happen because it's just really, really hard to make an American-made guitar that's with the prices of everything, with buying good hardware, good pickups, and good wood, and hiring really good people that you need to pay, health insurance, all of the stuff, and keep these people. It's really expensive. And so I'm not surprised that Gibson and Fender might want to try to get away from that a little bit. Yeah. Because they can make a lot of stuff, but it's hard. I'm not, I really wish that we could make, or anybody could make, really great guitars for $23.99 at a smaller scale, but it's like that mass scale is probably the only way that you can do it. You just got to make enough to where the volume is high enough that where you're making some cash and you're good, and you can diversify, right? Yeah. Music Band's got strings, and Fender and Gibson got tons of stuff.
Yeah. How many Ernie Ball straps do they sell a day? Yeah. That's probably pretty good money.
It's probably really good money. So that's a great question. If people are probably in the comments right now saying, how did you forget about these companies and their guitars are all priced at this? And I'd say, great. That's for people to check out. But I think that's an interesting thing to say, which is what PRS is basically doing, is just taking the core line and saying, we're going to price these things accordingly, but then we're going to fill the gap with all kinds of other stuff for you to get. Yeah. And then you can invest in those guys when you can afford it, but then here's all kinds of killer guitars that you can get for under $2,500. Yeah.
It's interesting to me because it's just, I said it when we went on the 335 journey. Or when I drug you along with me on my 335.
Yeah. I twist my arm.
Come play guitar.
Come play guitars and hang out, get barbecue. Terrible.
It's a good job, folks. It just shocked me at how much I love the cheaper stuff and the higher stuff, and the middle stuff just didn't get me excited. And it's an interesting thing because I never really acknowledged it with Fender because I feel like for me, I'm sorry. There are standout instruments that you can find from Fender. For sure.
Yeah. We got that. It's very nice.
It's awesome. Yeah. You'll find a good one. But I feel like for me, the lower tier stuff doesn't excite me. Like Squier. I feel like a lot of people would fight me. They would die on the classic Vibe Hill, and that's fine. But when I play them, I'm like, I don't know. And the difference between that, even some of the normal Mexican and into lower priced American stuff, just doesn't get me excited the way that custom shop stuff does. And I don't think that is, I'm spoiled.
Elitist?
Yeah, I'm not trying to be. I'm just saying that I feel like other companies are doing a better job making lower tier stuff
than Fender is.
And making those guitars be as great as possible. Because I feel like SEs, PRS are like every one that I've played. I've definitely had problems with them. I don't love all of them, but I can't deny every single one of them has been a good guitar. Yeah, even they've just not all been right for me. Yeah, but I can argue that many Fenders and Squiers
we have that strong anecdotal evidence of stuff that we bought to work on at the shop, and there's some interesting things about those guitars.
Yeah, it's like those guitars, I just don't, I can't find anything about them that I want to play and keep. But that is just me. But for I think we're just in this weird space in the community because we're just going to see this trend. I'm curious to see what other companies do. Yeah. Because Gibson, Fender, PRS, they're leading the pack.
And if you think about some of the other brands, another brand that we have
coffee.
I know. We need to
drink some more of this slime here.
Let me drink some of them slime. No, but we're thinking about think of there's another brand out there that kind of falls into this category, which is like ESP. Let's take them for an example. A lot of really amazing guitars in that $1,000 to $1,500 range. Right. And then all the other stuff is insane. Custom shop levels. They don't really do anything mid-priced, but the quality of their LTD stuff is remarkable.
Yeah. I've not played a lot of the cheap ones.
Yes.
Because they do make some affordable beginner level stuff, but all the stuff in that like $800 to $1,500 range.
And that's the range that I think we're talking about today.
And it's funny that
is people sort of the range that we're sort of like going to bat for, because I think a lot of people are frustrated about the cost of that range. And I just think the level of guitar you're getting in that range is so much higher than when I remember starting out, or that range really didn't exist because it was either lower, and then it was USA. And I think the problem is for a lot of people, the pricing of this stuff was what USA was when they started, and they can't let that go.
Yeah, that's the ultimate.
That's
big
really
deal.
what we're talking about. Because I was there too. I bought my Mexican Strat for $300, and now it's $1,200 to buy that guitar, basically.
A Player Series Strat?
No, those are like $800.
There's like $800. Yeah,
$8 the Vintera is different enough to where that doesn't count.
Yeah, that's because that would be like a reissue. Which those, I mean, even those were like $700. I remember all the early Japanese ones.
Trying to say that there's like, I think the future of all this stuff, that $800 to $1,500 range is kind of that sweet spot. And I think a lot of people are going to kind of come around to like the majority of guitars that they're going to want to get are probably going to be in that price range.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to go
big
bonkers.
Yeah.
Mondo plus $4,000.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think that that's okay.
I think we're saying that's okay.
Because I think what this should do, and I think, I mean, time will tell what we'll see, but I think that all the companies who are making, you know, the lower end American stuff to the mid-priced American, you know, models, I think, you know, maybe they need to rein it back a bit and just, I mean, I feel like Gibson definitely has. Their lineup for a long time was just, there's way too many permutations in Les Paul.
Well, I always thought their biggest problem was making anything in the USA factory that's too cheap. Because I think that you just like, it's just bad juju for the entire operation to basically say, we're going to make this stuff and we don't care if it's good or not.
How much are those new studios? Because that to me is like
studio.
Let's see. Because those guitars, those are like the latest thing that they've released that's at all affordable.
It's my favorite feature of the Pedal Pushers podcast is Zach checks prices on his phone.
I mean, well, the computer's way over there. They're $2,000 for the new studios.
That's probably good. That's probably a good thing though.
Oh wait. Well, that's the modern studio.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's got to be a cheaper
Les Paul
one than
Studio
that.
Ebony, $1,700. Unless this
is that a nice guitar? I hope it's a nice guitar.
Yeah, I like Les Paul Studios. It's the same, you know. It's just a Les Paul without any crap on it.
It's very close to the price of some of those Epiphones.
It is, and that I think is where people are getting so offended, and that's what happened with my Flying V. Everyone was like, "Why would you spend $1,200 or $1,300 or whatever?"
It doesn't even have rosewood, dog.
Right, I know. But yeah. Anyway, I think I'm talking in circles, but
that's talking in circles is the name of most podcasts.
Oh,
that's
is
like
it?
I think that's the
that's Mark
unspoken.
Maron's podcast.
Yes, that's the unspoken podcast is talking in circles, which we go. Okay, so we're gonna keep going on there. I'm going to push my narrative that companies are actively trying to phase out the mid price because I think that's what's happening. But maybe not everybody agrees with it. Let's talk about something else. Or keep on this topic, but talk about something. We've been talking about guitars. What about amps and pedals? We're a pedal company. Does mid-price mean anything in the pedal game? Does it mean anything in the amp game?
Pedals are weird because I don't know.
Weird.
Like mid-price, like what's a mid-priced pedal?
Okay, so if I say if it's $100 pedal, we're talking
JHS 3 Series, some Boss,
maybe. Some electro-harmonic stuff.
The electro-harmonics.
Some MXR stuff.
Yeah.
Classic stuff made overseas.
Yeah. Well, JHS isn't.
JHS is made in the States,
They're all made here. Even the boards are made here, which is wild that they can do it for that price point.
Good job, guys.
Yeah. Good on you. But yeah, because I guess when I think of budget pedals, I'm thinking of the really cheap, like sub $100, like, Moore, Behringer stuff, which, admittedly, those Behringer pedals are pretty good.
Devin keeps trying to get me to get that super fuzz.
Yeah. I feel like because it's plastic, I feel like you would step on it once and just break it.
I'm so big. I'm so big.
Not that. You just be like, just clack, and then it will.
I weigh more than the former president of the United States, Donald Trump. Some people think he's still the president of the United States. We're not going to get into that. I'm going to do the accordion hands. No, I'm kidding. But I will break you. I will stomp into oblivion. I'm not a subtle man.
But I think like mid-price pedals are where we're at in the 200-ish.
I think we're a mid-price company.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that's 139, 179, because I think there's other brands that are making, that are our size, that are going to maybe charge, they're $299, $349 for stuff. And, I think it's, there's a lot of stuff out there that's $399 now. And, but I think it's like harder because I think pedals, the labor part of it is is interesting. Yeah. Because with guitars, it's like such a big part of it because it's so labor intensive.
No human hand, like a robot cannot completely make a guitar.
Not even close.
Like hands have to be on
so many hands.
On of it. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. Like the cost, and that's something that I privately, I'll see.
You just thought privately if you're going to tell them right now?
Well, up until this point.
Up until this moment. Oh my gosh. Industry secrets from Zach Broyles.
Like the pricing of stuff is interesting because I know how much it costs to make it.
Yeah.
And I know how much time it takes to make it.
Yeah.
And so when I see people selling stuff for double what we charge for, essentially the same thing sometimes, it just makes me scratch my head, and I don't know what to think about it.
Well, I think that's probably in every industry, and we talk about outside of maybe, I don't know, insulin, you probably are going to price it. People are going to price it based on what they think they can get for it. And that's not necessarily a bad thing unless it's something that humans need. Our industry, not so vital to the survival of the species.
Guitar pedals, no.
Yeah, or guitars, or
No, well,
I mean, musical instruments. We need musical instruments because we got All right. Well, I'll walk back that a little bit, just a little bit. But no, what I'm saying is like people are going to price it based on like, I wonder if I can get this, and if they can, then that's what it's worth. We had a whole episode about that too.
We did.
We did. I know. I was looking at them today because I was trying to come up with some ideas.
Okay.
And I was like, we did do an episode. I can't remember the title. It was like, what's price got to do with it?
Okay.
Something like that.
That sounds right.
I
do feel like with pedals,
but it's like, so everything is priced that way, right? Everything is priced. Like you take into all those factors, and then you say, and then a lot of people would say that the Gibsons or Epiphones or some Fenders or PRSs are priced to fill somebody's pocketbook, and that's it, right?
I mean, they are they're priced that way so they can afford to pay all the people who are working to make those things.
Yes.
I'm sure Paul Reed Smith, the man, is
doing fine.
Is doing great, but I know that a lot of you watching the tours of those those play. Yeah. A lot of people that work there have worked there for a long time because he takes great care of his people. Yeah. And that is not
But
cheap.
I don't even care if he doesn't. No. That's not what I meant. That's not.
Get back to sanding.
No. I meant like even if he takes care of everybody and all the stuff's paid for, and then he wants to charge an insane amount because he wants the rest of that money for himself.
Right, yeah.
Who cares?
Right.
Because if people are willing to pay it. Now, you have to factor all those things in there to try to start a business and grow a business and maintain a business. You can price things silly, and then you could do well for a little while. Then people are like, and that's kind of comes up a lot with us because I always go way higher than you.
Yeah,
and not because I'm trying to screw y'all. We're still young, right? We need to make some money here. We need to try to build stuff. But then you're like, we're always like trying to figure out how to balance all of those things because I do think that you sometimes undervalue the amount of time and effort and work that you put into doing a lot of this stuff.
I don't think that
you never think about that.
I don't think that is something. I think the idea of charging for R&D is for a guitar pedal is fucking ludicrous.
There you go.
Granted, there's some things like the Chase Bliss that had freaking motorized, sliders. That's a lot of work. But also, I don't know, once you sell the first batch, all that is recouped.
Yeah, that's true.
And if you're investing that much time and energy and development into something that you cannot easily recoup the cost of, you probably should make that thing, in my opinion. But I do think that the price of really high-end guitar pedals, I think we're starting to see some of that waning. I think that the fervor of lockdown and all that stuff really propelled the small builder, the at-home fuzz guys that were making stuff with high-end vintage parts, or
I mean, truly, like that's really where the high-end pedal game is those parts, right? Like that's where you can really charge. I think that's a whole nother thing, and it's the same thing in guitars when you're using parts that people go, oh, you're using Brazilian or you're doing something like that,
right? But I think that realm of the $1,200, $1,400 like fuzz face with a bias knob, I think that will slowly go away. There is a finite number of parts, but you can get new versions of germanium transistors. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh my God.
But
breaking news on the Pedal Pushers podcast.
Yeah. Well, some people buy new ones and pass them off as old ones. But I do think that the
just giving it all away, man. We should be charging on Patreon for this.
Those people, right?
this is some dirt.
But I do think that sort of thing is already shown that that's not a stable model.
Well, I would say and these you were talking about two. I will drop my first F-bomb of the episode.
I've already had two.
I know, elitist fucks that we are. For somebody who has not one but two Castadosas, one that's on the way, and you who just got a Brazilian, the Murph. I think that's what we ended up with.
I like Murph. Yeah.
I like Murph
or
too.
Blanca. That was a comment.
I think that like thinking about those guitars, thinking about the like understanding and respecting the work that goes into like making a guitar like that. Like we really appreciate that, and we are willing to pay for it because we know what that feels like.
Yeah.
And when we hold the guitar and we play it, and that might not be your cup of tea. You might think we're crazy.
Oh,
and I totally get it, and that's fine. I don't think
I'm crazy.
I was making a point that we're not. No, but we are. We're obsessed over stuff like that. But there's just a story behind it, like with Murphy Lab and the Brazilian. And I mean, I've held the guitar. It's absolutely insane how good it is.
That's why I bought it.
It's the nicest guitar I've seen next to a real 59,
yeah,
in my opinion. And knowing the work that Carlos and his wife does on the guitars, I was working at Novo, knowing the work that we put into it, and Dennis, it's like there's a value there. With pedals, I don't see that at all.
Right.
And I'm not saying that to be mean about our industry. It's just like there's not as much like you can source parts and you can put it together, but that same like that massaging that the guitar needs to get it where it's supposed to go. I know what that's like, and
people do that with pedals,
and that's why I'm asking. I don't see it, and I'm curious
because like on a fuzz, you can measure everything, but at the end of the day,
okay,
I'm
learning.
There's a difference in measuring a handful of resistors or caps and grading them, than picking up a piece of wood and listening to it, weighing it, looking at the grain of it, the structure of it, and then saying this is going to be a good guitar, and intimately knowing
because you've done it so much.
Wood, because there's But I do think with amps.
What about amps? Let's talk about amps.
I think with amps, like I see that relation of like the extreme, lengths that builders go to make these things be as priced as the way they are. And again, is that me being just a cork sniffer? There's
two rocks behind us,
2 rocks in the room. No, because
because you also enjoy this Gibson amp that people on the internet would say is made
crap.
Like crap.
Yeah, which is I think very. We're gonna test this.
I'm really excited about.
I want to ask James how long we can just leave this on, because people are so worried that it's going to cook itself. And I want to see.
Yeah, but I think it's
forever.
But I think with amps, like, what about that? What's a mid-priced amp? Like, how does that work? Is there a same kind of thing? I think the difference with amps is I think a lot of the cheaper stuff might go away because people just don't want tube amps that are cheap because they're going to use computers and plugins and stuff, and then the people that want tubes are just going to pay really good prices for good tube amps.
Yeah.
Is that a thing? Did I make that up? Am I full of shit?
No, I feel like, mid-priced amps, there's so many amp companies. And we just did an episode on Dipped literally today, like making some rigs, and finding the amp was really hard.
Yeah.
Because even, a deluxe reverb or a Princeton reverb now it's not cheap anymore. And not that they were ever cheap.
Yeah.
But you're looking at I don't even know what a deluxe, like $1,200 now for a deluxe reverb, which is a PCB. It's not hand built, which is I don't care. I think
as long as it sounds good.
But like, I feel like that sort of 12 to 2,000 to like maybe $2,500 range. There's a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah, my California Tweed's $24.99 brand new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't see that area going away because I think I'm with you. I would see the cheaper stuff, the beginner solid state things going away.
Mm-hmm.
I think the companies that are excelling at doing modeling like Line 6, I think those companies should like those are the things to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, I've not played everything, but the Yamaha, the THR, those are cool. Yeah. Not to promote another Yamaha company intentionally, but I'm not messing with like the Positive Grid, but I do think that all the big legacy brands will probably say, you know what, the solid state practice amps, like I don't
Like
think
unless we want to jump into that game, we're gonna stick to.
Yeah,
But I think that's another interesting part about this. We talk about this with guitars is like what is mid-price to people. Like for amps, like what is a mid-priced like USA made tube amp?
USA made?
Yeah,
I mean Mesa Boogie or
Mesa
Dr. Z is probably going to be like your most average middle of the road.
Yeah. They're not cheap amps. They're not cheap. I mean, it's a mid-price. Is what I'm saying.
But American made an amp like
like
that. Those are the hardest things to. You can't. I mean, there are no budget or. There's nothing really in that realm that's an American-made amp. That's a giggable.
Where's like that deluxe reverb? Where's the Fender deluxe reverb made?
Well, they're made in Corona or not Corona. They're made in wherever in Mexico. Like they're probably like half an hour away from the Fender plant, you know. But something like a Maz 18 is only $2,700.
It's only $2,700. Come on, everybody.
I mean,
no, but I think that is like where like to
you know
me.
What I'm saying?
To me, it feels like that's already kind of gone that way. Then
Right.
But maybe I don't remember, doing a whole lot of amp searching for stuff that was like I went too high on amps too quickly. I think.
Yeah, you dove into the deep end.
Yeah, I got Z's in early 2000s, like pretty early.
Princeton's $1,500-ish. Well, this lacquered one's $1,500. So
nice.
Yeah, it looks nice.
But that's amps are an interesting thing because I do think people will pay for quality and pay for, hand built like this and that and, custom cabinets that are well made and, all that stuff. It's just, I think there's that other layer to it with modeling and with, plugins and all that stuff to make it a little bit more interesting.
And maybe we just don't see those people moaning about stuff because we don't talk about that as much. But really, there's not. I don't feel like with amps, maybe like we're not seeing a lot of stuff that people used to consider budget or cheap being kind of lifted up into this more expensive territory, kind of like what we've seen with Epiphone.
Oh, right.
To where it's causing this sort of backlash.
Well, here's another interesting part about it is that at least I found it interesting in my head. Let's find out when I say it out loud if that's true. With a guitar, you can buy an Epiphone like the Les Paul Special. You could buy a Classic Vibe. You could buy a Ventera and mod it. Like, how many people are going to do that with an amp? Like, do people like to do that with amps? Is that not nearly as many people do that with amps? And so I think people are willing to pay, pretty good prices for a really good amp, and then, buy a lot of guitars in various ranges. I think that's probably how it works more often than not. Yeah,
I don't think. Yeah, you get a small percentage that will automatically change tubes.
Yeah.
And then an even smaller percentage that would
change speakers.
Change a speaker. And really, apart from that, unless you know what you're doing, do not mess with amps.
Yeah, I almost died the other day. So,
what did you do?
Jeff had his amp out, and I was like, "Hey, what's this?" And I was looking at it, and he had the chassis off.
Oh, had the chassis out?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't one hand.
But yeah, so I think it's interesting, and I mean, I probably should have thought about this a little longer before we decided to record it and done a little more research on amp prices. But like I said,
people are here.
I've been they're not here for facts. They're here for vibes.
That's right.
That is right. Whoa. Just maybe you want to move that.
Yeah,
you're gonna be having too much fun. But yeah, I would
grab your phone, text me.
Hey man, that is a good sign that we are done with this conversation. No, I would like to know more about like are there, besides sort of the cheaper Mexican made Fender stuff, that amps that people buy that aren't, it feels like our group of friends and people are usually buying stuff that's a little bit more.
Well, I mean,
they're tiered up. I think the Mesa stuff's priced pretty good
for an American made amp.
Yeah, I really do.
I think people often forget, like people were bitching about the price of the Falcon. I'm like, wait, that's an American made amp. So I don't know.
But I don't know what's $1,000 amp that's good.
Black Star makes some great stuff.
Okay. That's what I meant.
I guess maybe some of the lower wattage Vox are okay. I think
Chinese made ones?
Yeah, I think the louder they are, the better they are. I really shout on all those.
That's kind of a good.
It's every amp.
That's a take on everything.
Yeah, the louder it is, the better it is.
Literally everything, in my opinion.
But yeah, amps are funny. I do think, as much as I am a proponent of expensive guitar with less expensive amp, I given the choice, I would much rather grab a nicer.
So you're, amp that's a classic question. We probably talked about this before, but you would go nice amp, cheaper guitar over nice guitar, cheaper amp?
No. I would always have a nicer guitar. I would always choose a nicer guitar and then make it work with the amp.
Yep.
But if I thought my tone was lacking and I liked my guitar, and I get a lot of AMA questions about this.
Okay.
Upgrade your amp. Like my favorite one I get is, do you prefer to mess with the EQ on your amp or an EQ pedal? I'm like, well, if your amp's not doing it,
yes,
then get rid of it. Because an EQ pedal, unless you're using it as an effect or you're trying to normalize like switching between different guitars, I don't see the value. It sounds like
you don't like your amp.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say the same thing. The EQ pedal is for if you've got a different place, you got a main sound, you got a different place you want to go with a different guitar, or just the way the song's written, and you got to just change drastically without messing with the amp. But if you need an EQ pedal to make the amp work, you don't like your amp.
Yeah. And some people would say, well, Eddie used an MXR EQ on his, but he like what were your options? When he was recording all that stuff, you had like Fender, Marshall, Hiwatt, Sound City, Orange, maybe, and Vox. That's it.
You know what? I'm saying that like you probably don't like your amp. If literally the only way to get the sound that you want is to use that specific amp with that EQ pedal, then that is awesome.
Sure.
Have fun. But I don't think the question the person asked is that question.
No.
They asked basically saying, I got to fix this. This doesn't sound good. Would you do this versus that other thing? Because I think that is possible. Absolutely possible. That there's a bass sound on an amp and then an EQ pedal, but that's not what we're in. That was to fix.
Right.
Not to enhance.
Especially if you're using it into a loop as an always on thing. It's like, I don't really see that.
Yeah.
I get it, but also, I don't know. I think that your amp, that needs to really be the thing that sets the bar for where you're trying to go musically. And you can't fake that. You can't fake it. But going back to the guitars, all this to say, I was a little surprised by the Epiphone Firebirds and the price of those.
A little too high?
I thought it was a little expensive.
Yeah,
But, they had hard cases and and the nice pickups and all that stuff. All the new Epiphones.
Hey man, Cesar's kids got to eat, bro.
All the new Epiphones with humbuckers are all loaded with custom buckers, which I like them in the Murphy, but I don't normally like those in those. But you can't deny that that's an expensive pickup. You can pull those out today, put them on reverb for $300 or $400, probably sell them, and then buy a $300 set or $270-something set of Duncans, new, and be like, okay, you got that, and then you got a little walking around money,
Go get yourself some ice cream. That's what I want. It's getting a little hot in here. I want some ice cream.
Yeah, it feels good.
But yeah, I think that I kind of go back to they're pricing the inspired by Gibson custom shop for Epiphones where they want that level to sort of sit at. So they might be pricing those a little higher. So then, because there's a level they're trying to reach, and they'll sell some, and if they stink, or they're not up to par, then people will drop off pretty quickly. So, I got to go with, I'm a proponent of, seeing what you can get for stuff.
Well, yeah.
But if people don't see the value in that, I thought the Dave Grohl guitar was surprisingly affordable.
Right.
Considering.
How much was it?
It was like $12.99.
Yeah. I mean, I think because that guitar was so in demand.
They priced it aggressively.
And maybe people weren't willing to like bitch about it as much.
Okay.
Because everyone wanted it. And these other guitars, which...
How much is the new Tom DeLonge?
It's not bad. It's not bad.
It came out today.
I think it's like $1,700.
The Tom DeLonge Starcaster?
Yeah.
That's made in Mexico too, right?
I believe so. Yeah. It oh no, sorry, excuse me. It is only $11.99.
There you go. Aggressively priced.
But it's a simple single pickup.
Sure.
So I mean it's like
But it is. I think that like the market will decide, right? If people think that these guitars are too expensive and nobody wants them, even with the upgraded hardware and the USA pickups, then they'll flop and they'll got to figure something else out.
I think they're probably going to sell okay. And I think what we're going to see is...
Lay it on me.
I think all the Epiphones eventually will go to Gibson headstocks.
Yep.
And a lot of the budget, anything... I sincerely could see this... I could see the studio and anything kind of in that stripped back, more affordable Gibson thing just disappearing.
I could see that too. I could see that too.
Yeah, and I could kind of see that from a Fender standpoint too. And it's funny because like the guitars that we all want are just the same old bullshit we've always wanted. It's funny. I saw a quote from Joe Bonamassa.
I was about to tell you that same quote, so I'm glad that we read all the exact same things.
Could you imagine if Ford still made the Model T? Because that's what people were nostalgic for. It's like, no, but it's so weird that that's what we demand out of guitars.
Yeah, well, it's nostalgia, but also it's an emotion engine. It's a time machine.
Yeah.
To our youth and to the feelings that we get and to express ourselves artistically, we want to connect with those things, and so it's got to be the look and the feel of those guitars, and that's why it's like most people that are driving, it's probably you want something that looks cool, but you need it to be safe.
Right. Yeah.
You need all the modern stuff, and you want
that CarPlay. I have CarPlay.
I don't have CarPlay.
I know. You're gonna get it in your next car.
I'm gonna intentionally buy a car. I'm gonna find out the last car that I could get. The newest car I could get with that I can't do CarPlay, and I'm gonna get that.
2017 probably.
Yeah, there you go. Just because. No, I'm kidding. But no, I think that I love that quote from Joe because I think it's true. It's very ridiculous, the industry that we're in, and so I don't know. I'm like for you, who has lots of guitars for personal reasons, and then lots of guitars for business. Like, are you firmly in the camp of like, I'm good. I would pay $1,500 for an Epiphone, and I'm happy about that.
I need to play them first.
Yeah.
But I will say that I think the Kirk Hammett guitar convinced me that given the right parts and a good setup, that there is no reason to doubt that any of those guitars are any less than great.
Yeah.
But I would like to play them. I do hate I hate that they have Laurel still on the fretboard.
At that price point.
At that price point, I do think it should be rosewood. But that's something that the Ventera series before that had Pal Faro,
and everybody said nope, and then they switched. So the market can decide these things if people say, you know what? And I think everybody has their right to say that. I think for me personally, I've been on Less Guitars, Best Guitars for a while now, so none of this...
I've turned around from that.
You went... That was 6 months ago. So I'm not in the market for anything like that, but you never know where you're going to kind of get the bug and decide that there's something in that range that you want. And like if I want to get I think the interesting thing for me was that if they made like say like an Explorer, like the Epiphone stuff that they do versus like the $24.99 USA one, it's a the Epiphone stuff is convincing me that would be the right way to go for a stunt guitar like that.
Oh my gosh.
Versus not to knock the USA guys because they're just right down the street from us, but I think value wise, you're saving that money and you're going to get a really nice guitar.
You're going to get a great guitar.
You're going to get a great guitar. So I think that is interesting. And that's where I do think that for me, I'm thinking it's $1,000 or it's $5,000. And that's the area that I want. Nothing in between.
Right. And all that to say, Gibson standard stuff is
we had
really,
Chippy was
really,
nice.
Chippy was great. Really great stuff. And they make awesome guitars that
we ain't slagging.
It's just for us getting excited about it.
Yeah.
I see that those Les Paul Customs from Epiphone. Yeah. And I go, I really want one of those.
Well, it's like we're going back in circles. This is great. I like it.
We can stop.
No. We're doing great. We can't. I can stop talking about gear at any time. I promise. You don't have to tell me. I don't need an intervention.
We just started talking about snacks, and you're like, I gotta go.
Man, I'm so hungry. I was putting my daughter to bed last night, and every time it's a little bit of like a marathon. Because I'll be like, all right, night, honey. She's like, can you bring mommy in? And then mommy comes in and she's like, Allison will come out and say, oh, you're up again. And she wants to talk to us. And last night I went in there and she's like, Daddy. And I'm like, what? It was like third time. And she's like, can we get donuts again sometime? And I was like, you are my daughter.
Yeah. Yep.
And so, yes, just wave a donut in front of my face and you'll get me to stop talking about gear for a little bit. See, now we're derailed. See, now it worked. And maybe we can end this conversation.
Well, should we end it?
I still want to talk.
Okay, what's your last thing here?
My last thing is that I feel like there's some, not negative energy, but people are the $1,000 to $1,500, import guitar and then the custom shop guitar. They get slagged a little bit because people think both are too expensive for what they are.
Right.
And I'm here to say those are the best guitars that you can buy. Yeah. I think there's a lot of great guitars in the in-between, but I think for the value and the money, those two camps are the best guitars that you can buy. That's what I think.
I agree. I think that Fender and Gibson Custom Shop.
The Fender Custom Shop stuff that I've played recently has been nuts.
I know. I think both of them are making the best guitars they have literally ever made, golden era included. I think they're the best. Easy there, champ.
Well, you said some stuff. I'm trying to drink, and you're saying you're putting it down.
Huh?
You were saying that. From the golden era, even better.
Yeah, well, for the most part. I mean, they're still like missing a few key points in my opinion. I think the Gibson pickup covers still don't look quite right. And I think their hardware is still not, it's too dull looking. But this is like literally splitting hairs. But I think from a playability, from a sonic standpoint, barring the custom Buckers with El Nico 3, I do think everything else is like, I don't know if you can do any better.
And I'm looking at it, I'm saying like if you go to Novo right now and you want to buy yourself a Miras J, that's going to cost you $4,500, but you're going to get an incredible guitar. Custom order a Sir or a Tom Anderson. Obviously, I love my Castadosas. You can buy Japanese-made ESPs that are insane. Yeah. It's like the price point of in that level. There's just a bunch of amazing guitars, and that's the level that I live in as a shit guitar player. But I know how good guitar feels, and I can't not do that anymore.
I think
I bring that point up a lot if you listen to the show, but I think that some people just scoff at that and say they're overpriced, and they're it's just somebody's lying in their pocketbook. They're massaged, man. There's that level of guitar. There's an extra little scoosh that's on there, and so then if you want value, I think you need the $1,000 to $1,500.
I think for me,
have the good
one of the
pickups,
things that so often we see, and maybe we can end with this. We can end with this is that people moan a lot about the prices of these things, but also some people often say they'll never own these things.
Yes.
And if that is the mindset that you have, just squash it and don't think about that and just reorient that thought into one day I'll have these things. Yes. Because for me, like when I was a kid, I dreamt of owning a Fender. I dreamt of owning a Gibson. I didn't think I would. And then you grow up and you save and you earn, and then these things happen. So if that is the mindset you have, it doesn't matter how old you are. Yeah. Set a goal for yourself and start working towards it. So
that is the less guitars, best guitars.
Yes.
You can get there, but you might have to give up a lot of stuff.
And be
do
patient.
it and be patient. And
Yeah.
you know, that's what I had to do, and it was worth it to me.
Yeah.
But-
I forget that I've been playing guitar for almost
25 years.
25 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time. That's a long time.
It's the same amount of gear money the entire time. I've just been spending the same amount of money and buying and selling and buying and selling and trading and buying and selling. And now here we are.
Yeah, you start with a certain amount of money and it's like, this
Started
is it.
with
This
a
is
paper
it.
clip, and now I've got.
I got a Murphy.
There you go.
Well,
All right. So let's see how long the mid-priced gear holds on for dear life.
yeah, we'll see. And let us know what you think about all this stuff.
I think people are going to say, y'all are full of shit. The best guitar you can buy is a $24.99 guitar from blank. I want to hear that. I want to see that.
Sure.
Lay it on me.
And if that's what you think, then good. Leave us a comment. It helps the algorithm.
We need to say more controversial stuff. That's
Like-
what sells.
Like feet are gross. There you go.
Feet are gross?
Yeah.
See, that's not that controversial.
No.
It has the most sweat
Feet are
glands. They have the most sweat glands of any part of your body.
Does it?
Yeah, that's why they stink.
Oh.
Feet.
Hot.
Okay, Quentin Tarantino.
All right.
All right, we're done.
Okay, that's enough of that. Let's get something to eat.
Yeah.